everybody? Welcome to Matt's Metal Show. Today we're going to talk about the studio albums of Ozzy Osbourne, which I'm going to start this off because Ozzy was the first guy that I was full on into. I can remember when I was like 12 years old, I went to a friend's house and he had a copy of Diary of a Madman. It was George, actually. My buddy George, and I remember he had this copy of Diary of a Madman, and I remember he even said, "Oh, we got to keep up with Ozzy Osbourne." And I'd been listening to Ozzy since I was a kid because my dad loved Sabbath, but the two didn't like click. You know, I was like, Ozzy Osbourne, who the fuck is that? I remember getting into Ozzy. The first album I ever bought, probably with my own money, was Blizzard Boss. So I wanted to go through and. There's 12 studio albums. One of them's a cover album, but it's still considered his 9th studio album, so I'm going to include it here. And then I could probably talk about the live albums too, but we'll start off with the studio albums. There's 12 of them. I'll rank them from 12 to 1. Probably be no surprises towards the beginning, but like, hey, fucking A, man, we're all going off the rails on a crazy train. A little Randy going on there. Number 12 is 2010's Scream. I fucking can't stand that album. And the funny thing is growing up with Ozzy, I've never had an Ozzy album that bothered me. I always can find cool things off an Ozzy album and not be totally ew, I hate that. But Scream was pushing it. Out of all the songs, I don't think I've actually listened to that entire album all the way through, with a really. I know I've listened to it all the way through, but probably not with a clear sense of I loathe that album. It doesn't have Zakk Wylde on it. It's 2010. It has Gus G is the guitar player. He's not a bad guitar player, but that album is just you could tell Ozzy really misses Zakk for one, and he really misses Bob Daisley. You know, even though Bob's been gone for a while from his fold. Nothing on there that I can even say anything positive about. I really, really can't. Songs like Soul Sucker, Digging Me Down, Latimer's Mercy. No. Anyways, I don't really particularly like that album at all, so I'm going to rank it number 12. Number 11, we're going to go from last year, 2020, Ordinary Man. Ordinary Man, I remember when the album was first going to drop, months before the album was going to drop, they, started putting out singles here and there and everywhere. I liked Straight to Hell. I thought that was a cool song. And then I liked Under the Graveyard. But it's just, once again, Zakk's not on the album because, Ozzy and Zakk, parted ways. Zakk does his tour with Steve Vai and stuff, and he also does Black Label Society. But man, Ordinary Man, it felt like a goodbye. I mean, I remember buying the album when it dropped. Finally, after buying a couple of the singles, Ordinary Man has Elton John on it. There's just not a lot of awesome stuff on here. There really isn't. There's songs like Eat Me and Scary Little Green Men and Holy for Tonight. A lot of the album is just grandiose and overproduced and trying to make, Ozzy sound amazing. And, the time has come, my little friend, to talk of other things, just, it was all right. If it's good, his Goodbye album, it's decent, but it's nothing stellar. It's overproduced Ozzy with a lot of background noise. Duff McKagan played on the album. Andrew Watts who produced it, played guitar. I think Slash played on the first song. Um, yeah, I don't know. You could tell Ozzy's voice has been like way, auto-tuned and shit. It's not awesome. So number 11 would be Ordinary Man. Number 10, Undercover. And that's the cover album I talked about, and it's got Jerry Cantrell plays guitar on it from Alice in Chains. Um, it's a cover album. I mean, what can you say about it? He does like Rocky Mountain Way. I kind of dig his version of Working Class Hero. That's probably my favorite song on the whole album. Um, he does like In My Life from the Beatles. I know Ozzy's a huge Beatles fan, but the thing is like Ozzy, don't sing the Beatles. Does Mississippi Queen and Leslie West actually played the guitar solo on that? All the Young Dudes. That's one that's always like mystifying to me. All the Young Dudes. It's a Bowie song written for what was that band that it was written for? It was like Mott the Hoople or some shit like that. Anyways, everybody fucking covers that song, and I don't know why, because I've never been a fan. I know Bowie did it. I've heard Iron Maiden do it, or I think Bruce Dickinson did it on his solo album. Ozzy's done it. Like everybody always picks that song. Like, oh, all the Young Dudes. He does "Woman" by John Lennon. Fire's kind of cool. Remember that Fire? I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you fire. He does Sympathy for the Devil. Overall, not one of my favorite albums. Ozzy's that guy. Dude, you're Ozzy, so like you doing a cover album is weird because Ozzy has a distinct voice, and Ozzy should stick with doing Ozzy songs. Enough said. So that was number 10. Number 9, Black Rain from 2007. That's Zach on it. Black Rain was probably the first Ozzy album that I bought and then was like, Like, I tried to love that album because to me in '07 it was still like, I still have this affinity for Ozzy. I mean, it's kind of worn off here in 2021. I still love Ozzy, but I'm just saying, like, my overall undying love for Ozzy is not as sharp and clear as it used to be. In '07, I bought this album. I remember it came out, and I got it off of, like, iTunes or something, like, when it first dropped, and I was like, cool, man, a new Ozzy album. And the funny thing about it is, like, I was so out of it, like, I had no idea it was even coming out. I just happened to, like, run across it, and it was like, oh, look, it's Ozzy. He's on the cover, and he's standing there with his weird sunglasses on, and it looks like it's a picture, but it looks like it might be a drawing, and he's covered in black rain, which is like oil. This is one of those albums where, like, and you kind of wonder, like, who writes the lyrics now? Because I know it ain't Ozzy. He doesn't write lyrics. So all the song doctors are in here. I don't know who's writing the lyrics, but it's very political in spots. Of course, the title track, Black Rain, is like, our children are dying. I kind of like that song. I really like I Don't Want to Stop. That's probably my favorite song on the album. And it's an empty-headed rocker. And it's funny because the first song is called Not Going Away, and then the second song is I Don't Want to Stop. I mean, it's almost like the same thing. But there's songs on here that are so forgettable. The Almighty Dollar. You just hear Ozzy just Here for You, Civilize the Universe. I mean, these songs are all just like, this was the beginning of the end for me when Ozzy came out with this, because it just wasn't that exciting. I remember like trying to listen to this album, and I would get like 4 tracks in, and I'd be like, I'd put it aside for something else, and that's unfortunate because, like I said, I've grown up with Ozzy since I was like like I grew up listening to Black Sabbath when I was a little kid. You know, my dad loved Paranoid, and he had Master of Reality. Those were his two go-to albums. So I've always like been listening to Ozzy since I was like, I'm talking about like 2-3 years old, and then I got into Ozzy when I was like 11 or 12, and have been an Ozzy fan ever since. But like I could tell you, like in the past 10 years, you know, that is Wayne, and that Black Rain's probably the first album where I was like, oh, you know, like, ooh, what is this? So Black Rain from 2007. Number 8, I'm going to go Ultimate Sin. If you had asked me like 20 years ago, and this would have probably been like number 4. You know, but over the years, I've kind of grown. The nostalgia has kind of worn off the MTV metal. I call it MTV metal because it is MTV metal. Some people call it hair metal. Well, I don't understand that phrase. The reality of it's MTV metal. It was made to be on MTV for us kids to come home from school and just plant ourselves in front of MTV, and that was what this kind of metal was. When metal was huge, it was MTV metal. Now, the funny thing about this album is I went and saw them on tour in '86, June of '86, and Metallica opened for Ozzy on the Master of Puppets tour. And I was this huge Ozzy kid still. Even at 16, I was still like, oh, I love Ozzy, you know. And dude, I listened to Ultimate Sin like a million fucking times, like a million times. But it's like the Dawkins Ozzy album. It really is. Jake has some cool stuff on here, but I think by this time, like Phil Susan was in the band. Even though like Bob Daisley wrote the lyrics and he did the bass stuff, and Phil Susan, except for the song "Shot in the Dark," which Phil Susan wrote, and he actually ended up like suing Ozzy and getting his royalties for that because that was the one song that he did write, which was the hit off the album. But I remember going and seeing Ozzy, you know, and Metallica open, and that was the turning point for me. Is when when the glitter and the glam started to fall away, and I saw this basically a fucking garage band wearing jeans and fucking Sam Hain t-shirts, fucking up on stage, and they blew me the fuck away. So that's where I started to shift to. No, I was never hugely into thrash, but Metallica like opened my fucking eyes. So this album, it holds a good place in my heart. I can still pop it on and listen to it. It's got Randy Castillo on drums, Phil Susan on bass, and maybe Bob Daisley. We're not sure. According to Bob's book, I think he played on this. I know Bob wrote all the lyrics and shit. And then Jake, this was Jake's last shot with Ozzy before he got ejected for no fucking reason. And then they moved on and got Zakk Wylde. But it's a great album. People shit on this album. But it was the times, man. It was 1986. It was fucking what was selling. It was what the record company wanted. It was what fucking MTV wanted. And those two things were huge. They didn't give a fuck what us kids wanted. They didn't care what the fucking artists wanted. It was about MTV and the fucking record company. And so this is what they came out with. And like I said, it's like Dawkins Ozzy. But there's fucking some killer fucking songs on there. I mean, Jake did a great job on this album. It gets pissed on a lot. But and you know, over the years it has dropped in rank. Like I said, if you would ask me this 20 years ago, I would have said, yeah, it's number 4. I love fucking Ultimate Sin. Now I'm like, Ultimate Sin, the title track's great. Thank God for the Bomb. That's a fucking great song. Killer Giants. Fucking the guitar work on that is fucking great from Jake. Lightning Strikes, super catchy. It had a lot of super catchy songs. And it's funny because Bob Daisley was writing the lyrics, but like he would write like the song like Secret Loser, and he would kind of write it about Ozzy. And then of course the famous Shot in the Dark, one step away from you. And then Shot in the Dark with Dweezil Zappa, like in the video. because Dweezil was, Frank Zappa's son, so he got to do shit like that. I'm a teenager, I get to be in a fucking Ozzy video. Awesome. But yeah, number 8 is Ultimate Sin. Number 7, I'm gonna go Osmosis. Now, the funny thing about Osmosis is that's another album that kind of gets fucking shit upon. But there is some really fucking cool songs. It wasn't your typical Ozzy album. It sounded different. It wasn't this is in the middle of grunge, so this is 95. And it was not as I don't want to say it's not as riff driven, but it was just an odd sounding album. But there are like 2 songs on there, probably 3 songs that just I love. Actually, no, there's about 4 or 5 now that I'm looking at them. Perry Mason opens it up. That's a cool song. It's kind of an odd song. Perry, like most kids at this point didn't even know who the fuck Perry Mason was. It's the old TV show like Raymond Burr. I Just Want You is fucking great. I love that fucking song. I just want you. Thunder Underground is fucking awesome. And you hear Thunder Underground. I can sing all the fucking verses. See You on the Other Side is really good. And then my favorite song on the album is Tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Because there's that one line and he's like, who's that knocking at the door? Is it some young punk come to even the score or something like that? It's fucking awesome. So this was the album that like you could kind of tell maybe there was a little tension there with Ozzy and Zach, because it didn't seem like Zach's head was completely in this album. There's a song called My Little Man that Stevie Vai wrote with Ozzy. I don't know if he was like considering like Steve Vai as a replacement for Zach. I don't know what was going on. So, but that's a cool album. So yeah, that's number 7 is Osmosis. Number 6 is Down to Earth. And the funny thing about Down to Earth is when it first came out in 2002, there was kind of a disconnect with me because like it was like I can't remember how I got it. If I bought the CD or if I downloaded it, I can't remember which. But I remember there was like at the time that I got this album, there was something going on where like I didn't really get a lot of time with it, and I gave it like kind of a cursory like listen, and I was like, it's okay. But then later on, I remember years later, like going through it, and there's like 4 or 5 good songs, just kind of like with Osmosis. There's some fucking cool songs on here. There was also some cool like extra bonus tracks too from like Japan, I think it was, or something. And those, if I can remember, was it Black Skies? No Place for Angels. I don't know. There's a song that Ozzy does with a band called Cold Chamber, and it's the cover version of Shock the Monkey from Peter Gabriel, and it's fucking genius. So if you ever want to hear that, I remember I made my own little compilation CD called Rare and Unreleased, and had all the B-sides and shit that I could find. But like Down to Earth, it had a cool tone to it, and it had some really kind of ferocious songs, kind of catchy songs. Like I said, again, I don't know who was writing the lyrics at this point because Bob was in the wind. Gets Me Through is cool. I love Facing Hell. No Easy Way Out is a good song. I know Dreamer was like a hit, but I thought that was kind of boring. I don't like the Ozzy ballad shit as much as everybody else does, apparently. But No Easy Way Out was really good. I love Junkie. Junkie's a great song. And Alive. I like Alive. That was a good song too. This is a solid album. There's even this little part 1 kind of thing that's kind of like a little weird blurb. Can You Hear Them? Running Out of Time. It's a pretty solid album, and I thought it was just like a little bit above Osmosis. Number Number 5, and I know a lot of people love this album, but I did not. And the thing is that when this album came out in 1988, I was fresh out of high school, so there was probably a little bit of disconnect because I mean, when you were in high school, like things were different because you had your friends all constantly in your face, and you were constantly talking about what album you're going to get. Tower Records was still around, so that was a big destination spot for all of us. But I remember when No Rest for the Wicked came out in 1988. I know Bob wrote the lyrics. I want to say Geezer Butler played on this album. Was it Geezer? I'm not sure. Let's look it up real quick, because that's important. Bam, bam, bam. No, Bob played bass on this album. Geezer played on the tour, I think it was. So you had brand new Zakk Wylde, you had Bob Daisley, Randy Castillo, and John Sinclair was doing the keyboards. So most of his band left over from the last album, which right before this was Ultimate Sin, except for Phil Sousa was in the wind, so they got Bob back because Bob just did well with Ozzy. He wrote good songs and stuff. Now, the funny thing about No Rest for the Wicked, and I think the reason why it really turned me off, was this was right around the time that all the TV evangelist shit was going on, all the scandals with Jim and Tammy Faye Baker and what's his name, Jimmy Swaggart got busted because he was, getting prostitutes to run around and run around his car naked. It was like a naked Chinese fire drill, some shit like that. So they did a song called Miracle Man, and in the video, I remember seeing the video, and it's with Ozzy, and he's in a pen with a bunch of pigs, and he's got a Jimmy Swaggart mask, and he's singing Miracle Man. Miracle Man, got busted, Miracle Man. And Zakk's playing on this album is phenomenal, and that's the thing. That's why it's ranked pretty high. But at the same time, that song just really turned me off. The video just turned me off, and I was just like, God, man, you're basing on Jimmy Swaggart. I get it. I get that's the thing of the time, but who gives a shit? I didn't really care about that. But Devil's Daughter is a great fucking song. Didn't really dig Crazy Babies as much. Breaking All the Rules was good. Bloodbath in Paradise is fucking awesome. It's awesome. And the funny thing about Bloodbath in Paradise, between that, Devil's Daughter, and then Fire in the Sky is really good too. And then there was an unnamed track, and it was called Hero was the last track. But Demon Alcohol. And so Demon Alcohol, Bloodbath in Paradise, and Devil's Daughter, those 3 songs are fucking amazing. Zakk plays really good on this whole album. Tattoo Dancer's all right, but I don't really like where it's I was dance for me, bitch! You're it's Ozzy, so he's kind of feeble and retarded, and he's sitting there, and you picture him trying to tell some hooker to dance for him. It's kind of creepy. So, I would have ranked it higher, but that Miracle Man song, it still just sticks to me bad. Number 4, I'm gonna go No More Tears. No More Tears. I listened to the shit out of this album. It came out in 91. No More Tears was really commercial. It had a lot of stuff that Ozzy wrote with Lemmy, I believe. I think he wrote a couple of songs. I know he wrote Hellraiser, and he actually did Hellraiser. Hellraiser! You got the creepy Mr. Tinker Train as the opening track, and I guess he's a child molester. I like that song, but it still kind of weirds me out. It's almost like Miracle Man, where it weirds me out, to where I'm like, what the fuck are you singing about? It's fucking weird. Dude, yeah, it's creepy. But I know Bob wrote the lyrics on this album, so I don't know. We'll have to ask Bob about that. I Don't Want to Change the World was cool. Mama, I'm Coming Home is probably one of the ballads from Ozzy that I can stomach. It's a great song. He'll say, oh, yeah, I wrote it about Sharon. You did not. You didn't write any of the fucking lyrics, Ozzy. So It might have been written by Bob about Sharon, about him coming home, but it's a great song. Desire's okay. No More Tears, the title track, is really cool, except for the whole hand in the bush, hand in the bush. But it's really long. It's like 7 minutes and 24 seconds. Hellraiser's cool. Time After Time's all right. I love fucking Zombie Stomp. I don't know why. It's probably because it's so fucking heavy. Now, Mike Inez played bass on this album, and Zach played guitar, and I can't remember who the fucking drummer was. Was it Randy Castillo? I don't know. Can't remember. But it's really good. So that's my number 4. Number 3, Back at the Moon. Bark at the Moon's near and dear to me. One, because Jakey Lee was in it, and Jakey Lee is from San Diego. He's from Chula Vista. His name's Jake Williams. So we were all like into Jake because Jake was a local boy that was playing with Ozzy, and we were so fucking amazed by that. And Jake was in Mickey Rat, which was an early version of Rat, and then he was in Rough Cut, I believe, too. I think that's how Craig Goldie got the gig for Rough Cut, just because Jake left to go play with Ozzy. So this is the first real studio album after Randy was killed. Written by Bob. All the fucking lyrics written by Bob, even though on the inside sleeve it'll tell you all lyrics and music written by Ozzy Osbourne. Tommy Aldridge is on drums, Bob's on bass, Don Airey on keyboards, and Jakey Lee, or Jake Williams, as Jakey Lee, on lead guitar. I love this album. It has some good moments and it has some clunkers. For me, though, Bark at the Moon's fucking amazing. Oh, God. I still watch the video. It's so cheesy as fuck, with Ozzy in the werewolf costume, but love it. In fact, you can see this. There's a super glare, but when I was 14 or 13 or whatever, I got to meet Ozzy, and I got him to sign my Bark at the Moon album, and now it's down to an 8x10 size, because over the years, I don't know what the fuck, I just started cutting it up like a retard. But anyways, Bark at the Moon is amazing. I love You're No Different. It's probably my favorite song on the album, with the exception of Waiting for Darkness. Waiting for Darkness is absolutely fucking genius. Love Rock and Roll Rebel. And then you get into now you see it, now you don't. Trouble with words that get caught in your throat. It's like the sex song. Like Bob had to write a sex song on every album, like No Bone Movies, and you're just like, but you thought Ozzy wrote it, so then you're even more creeped out, because at least Bob was like a normal dude. Ozzy was like, and so when Ozzy's singing it, you're like, Ozzy's being a creeper. Rock and Roll Rebel. I love that song. Now, the problem with this album was it had some clunkers on it, so, I know Martin Popoff loves this album. It's in my top 3, obviously, but there's some filler on here, at least some song, like So Tired. Slow down, you're moving way too, slow down. Not a big fan. Waiting for Darkness is fucking genius. Now, when I was a kid and I had this album, you would flip it over to, there's 4 songs on one side, 4 songs on the other side. That's how it should be. Even when CD came out, bands should have probably fucking stuck to that formula, because everybody had decided to put 15 fucking songs on a fucking album, and it's like, good God, no. But you would flip it over to side 2, and it would gong in with a giant fucking church bell, and then all of a sudden these monks started, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Now, when you were a kid, I was 13 when this album came out, I was like, what the fuck? Center of Eternity, it's a fucking cool song, but like that intro kind of turned me off to that second side of the album. And when you were a kid and you had vinyl, it was just easier to lift the needle up and put it back on side one again and just keep going and keep listening to side one. And most of the good songs were on side one, so a lot of times you overlook side two because of shit like that, where you're just like, like Mr. Crowley, opened side two of Blizzard of Oz, and it was like, whoa. With the, yeah. But, like, years later, I fucking fell in love with fucking Waiting for Darkness, which is one of my favorite Ozzy songs, including the Randy stuff, is one of my favorite Ozzy songs ever. And, of course, Ozzy wrote the lyrics, and he wrote the guitar part and the harmony and everything. He fucking did it all, because fucking Ozzy's a genius. No. That'd be Jake and Bob. And, Ozzy writes melodies. It comes out of his head, and he does write melodies. So people do need to give Ozzy credit because he does know how to write melodies. He just doesn't use a musical instrument to do it. So that leaves us with 2, which is the big shocker. Not really. Anybody who knows me knows that I love Randy Rhoads. I haven't. Sorry. Tattooed on my arm. In fact, it's that picture, which is crazy. The thing with the next 2, I chose Blizzard of Oz as my number 2, only because if we look at it, Blizzard of Oz, I've listened to Blizzard of Oz more than I've listened to probably any album in my fucking lifetime. Seriously. Like, when I was a kid and I bought that album, I used to sit in my mom's living room with the big fucking turntable, put the record on, put these giant fucking headphones, which have come back in style now, and they're, like, cool. But back then, it was like you were landing a fucking 747 with fucking, and I would just pull out the lyric sheet and just fucking read the lyrics and listen to that album over and over and over and over and over again. And it's a flawless fucking album. So is Diary. They're both flawless. Now, to me, normally, I just lump the 2 together and throw on a couple of extra tracks, and there's my Randy Rhoads Ozzy. But in order to rank it right now, I'm just going to say Blizzard of Oz is number 2, probably just because the songs are amazing, but they're not as amazing as, obviously, my number 1 is Diary of a Madman. But there's every fucking song is fucking awesome on that album. I mean, you look at Blizzard of Oz and you're just like, I don't know. Crazy Train, Goodbye to Romance, D, for Christ's sakes. Now, a lot of people got pissy because they were like, why did they put D on there? It kind of messed it. This is a metal album. And you're like, well, yeah, but Randy wanted to put D on there, which is his mom's name, and that's kind of actually a little thing that he used to do in his guitar solo in Quiet Riot. It was called Laughing Gas. And you can definitely, if you go listen to that, you can hear, like, bits and pieces of D in there. Suicide Solution, Mr. Crowley, No Bone Movies, Revelation Mother Earth, which, everybody goes, oh, Diary of Madman because of Diary of Madman. Yeah, but dude, listen to Revelation Mother Earth. Jesus Christ. It's freaking amazing. And then Steal Away the Night. And then they had the B-side to Crazy Train was You Looking at Me, Looking at You, which was kind of just like a throwaway song. You looking at me, looking at you. It almost sounded like a Quiet Riot song because it was kind of like boom, 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 boom. It sounded like oompa music a little bit. Yeah. And fuck, Blizzard of Oz, man. I listened to Blizzard of Oz, like I said, probably more than I've ever listened to any album. I fucking loved Ozzy. For me at that time was just like, oh my god, he was fucking it, I didn't know all the shit where like Bob was writing the lyrics and all that shit. No one knew that shit because if you look at the album, you're just like, oh yeah, Ozzy fucking wrote everything because he's fucking amazing. Years later, Sharon would try and piss, Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake out of money and blah, 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 and who's right and who's wrong, I don't know. They all signed contracts. They all had, made tons of money. I mean, Bob Daisley made millions of dollars off these albums, so it's not like he was like, oh my God. But at the same time, I think they got like, shafted because this was the Blizzard of Oz that originally these guys towed around. I mean, we used to listen to the live stuff bootlegs back in the day. It was a big deal when we were in high school. My buddy Matt the Metal God, he used to deal in bootlegs, and we used to listen to like the Manchester show with the Blizzard of Oz, which was Bob Daisley, Lee Kerslake, Randy Rhoads, Ozzy Osbourne. That was the Blizzard of Oz, and then Ozzy's name got slapped on it because they wanted to tote Ozzy, so it just became Ozzy Osbourne Band. Ozzy is ruler. So, anyways, in '81 they followed up, 1980s Blizzard of Oz, and really like not too many months later, I mean, they jumped back into the studio and recorded Diary of a Madman, which is my number one. There were a few flaws about it. If you listen to interviews with Randy, he wasn't really happy with this album, just because it was really rushed. And there's some tracks, I believe it's Little Dolls, where he said that was like a dummy solo that he wanted to go back and redo it. But you can definitely listen to the multi-tracking that Randy does on this. It's a lot more intricate than that of Blizzard of Oz. Over the Mountain, Flying High Again, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, Believer, Little Dolls, Tonight, SATO, and Diary of Madman. Well, you can get the Legacy Edition, which is awesome because it has a live show from Blizzard of Oz tour. It's pretty awesome. But all those songs are friggin' genius. I've always had a special place, but I love Little Dolls. I do, and that's supposed to be a song with a dummy solo in it. That's a pretty goddamn good dummy solo, eh? You Can't Kill Rock and Roll. Dude, Over the Mountain. I can remember stealing this album. My sister bought it for me for Christmas, and I stole it from under the Christmas tree and listened to it for like 2 weeks and then snug it back, and I totally got busted. But I just remember putting that on and hearing the drums come in from Over the Mountain. I was just like, wow, and to this day, I still, like, it's amazing. Definitely, like I said, I've listened to Blizzard of Oz probably more, but Diary of a Madman, it's just more polished. It would have been amazing to see if Randy would have actually got that time to like go back in the studio and like finish it up. But hey, it is what it is. There's been a lot of live albums. We'll cover live albums real quick. I'm not going to put them in any order, but I'll tell you like the ones I like and the ones I don't like. Out of the Randy, you got Tribute. And Tribute's mostly like one show, but it also has, like, when you go on the second side, I want to say, boom, 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 boom. Tribute. Yeah, when you get to Goodbye to Romance and No Bone Movies, I mean, Paranoid's where they would end the show. So if you ever listen to any live Ozzy stuff, the first part of the album is pretty much a live show, and then it ends at Paranoid. Then Goodbye to Romance and No Bone Movies. Those are actually from the Blizzard of Oz tour with Bob and Lee on them. And I think I saw an interview where Lee said, I don't even think he got royalties for that. And then you have the studio outtakes of Randy playing D and screwing up like a bunch of times. It's pretty cool. That's a great live album. The funny thing about it is like it didn't come out till '87, 5 years after Randy died. But me and my friends, we all had a bunch of live shows. I think we even had this show. I think this is the Milwaukee show, I want to say. I can't remember. I know the cover picture and the show it's from are not the same. I think the cover picture's from Chicago, which is the tattoo I have on my arm. It's a cool album. Ozzy didn't want to put it out right after Randy died because he was distraught. He was, he didn't want to seem like he was cashing in on Randy's death. Like, oh, Randy just died, so let me throw out an album. So the second one that he did, or the first one that he did, but the second one on this list is Speak of the Devil. And I remember when Speak of the Devil came out, I loved that album. It was a big double album. It has Ozzy on the cover, like spitting out some jelly, and it had all these runes from J.R. Tolkien on it, where you had to like decipher what it said. It was secret devil talk and all this. Had that really cool bat. And it was recorded at the Ritz, I want to say, in September of '82, and Rudy Sarzo on bass, Tommy Aldridge on drums. They're pictured in Diary of a Madman, and a lot of people think that they actually played on Diary of a Madman. They did not. They were just pictured on the inside sleeve, and it said the Ozzy Osbourne Band in like weird hieroglyphs. But this one, actually, Rudy and Tommy actually played on because they were still part of Ozzy's band after Randy died. This is like 6 months after Randy died that they recorded this. Brad Gillis from Night Ranger is the guitar player. I was never a huge fan of Brad Gillis. I hated him in Ozzy. I just didn't like him. I didn't think he fit in. He's too whammy bar crazy. I don't like to watch him play Randy stuff. I was very kind of weirded out by people playing Randy stuff up until Zach came, and Zach's such a huge Randy fan that he actually did it justice. I didn't even like Jake playing Randy stuff because Jake was kind of flashy too, and he would it just didn't sound right. But this is a pretty cool album because Ozzy was pissed. Randy died. He owed Jet Records a live album. He didn't want to do the Randy stuff, so he decides to do Black Sabbath stuff. And he was so pissed because like Black Sabbath just came out with Live Evil, and Live Evil, really Black Sabbath had never released a really legitimate live album with when Ozzy was in the band, which they had Live at Last, but that was put out by the record company. It wasn't really approved by them. Years later, it became approved, but technically, at this point in time, there was no real live album from Black Sabbath until like they did like Live Evil, and Ozzy was super pissed because he hated Ronnie Dio, and he was like doing Ozzy songs on there, and it was all just weird. But it's a pretty cool album, man. I listened to it like a lot when I was a kid because I just thought it was cool as shit, and I still pop it in, and I can remember every fucking thing that Ozzy says on here. I mean, everything. There's a song about, keep on smoking those joints and all that. And I can't fucking hear you, But it's a fun song or a fun album. The one with Zach, I mean, there's really only three to mention. Live and Loud with Zach, it's like a double album. It was recorded on the No More Tears tour, which was supposed to be the No More Tours tour. And the thing about Zach was Zach could play everything by Black Sabbath, including like at the end he does changes on piano because Zach's this huge Randy Rhoads fan, huge Black Sabbath fan. So this is a really good album because it shows off Zach. It does have Miracle Man on it because I guess that was like a kind of a hit. And it has a drum solo, which I don't approve of. I hate live albums that actually put the drum solo on it. Unless it's Rush, it shouldn't be on there. Cause this was like Randy Castillo. It's like, please. There was a Live at a Budokan show from 2002, but yeah, whatever. I'm not really like out there going, oh yeah, let me go get that. There was a Mr. Crowley live picture disc, and that was, I want to say it came out in 80, like after Blizzard, but before Diary. And it had Mr. Crowley, and then it had this song called You Said It All, and it's the only recording of You Said It All ever to come out. And then it has Suicide Solution with Randy. So I know there was a Just Say Ozzy thing, which had a couple little blurbs. Sweet Leaf Live, where it had like 6 live songs, like a little EP. That's not essential. So that's about it. I mean, you can go watch the After Hours show with Randy. That's pretty fucking awesome. But other than that, that's my take on Ozzy. And yeah, stay metal, everybody. Woo!